Welcome to the Zachrilege cast, the one interview podcast that brings the best and brightest of the atheist, skeptic, and just plain cool community to your earbuds. This is episode 33 of the show, and I'm recording live on October 14th, 2015. Did we miss another apocalypse? We probably missed another apocalypse. Anyway, in podcasting, there's always time to be narcissistic, so thanks to me for being my own guest last week. Hey, at least it was short, right? So tonight, we bring on a man with a very infamous moniker, the Aussie who promised to bring vibrating mustache rings to America. And in his first visit to the States, probably didn't expect to be hanging out in Alabama. Morgan Moore is a first-rate comedian, and you may know him from the Imaginary Friends podcast and on the Atheist Apocalypse. So before we say hi, here are a couple of out-of-context quotes that I stole from Nick's recent appearance on God Awful Movies, Brother White edition, if you want to check out that full thing. I will not repeat accents or voices because that's not what I do. So this is Nick. If you don't move, you get to fuck the black secretary again. Hey guys, just want to remind you that I'm a loser still, and here's a sexy 12-year-old. 2 notes in, and he's just had a bucket of horse sweat poured on him. More black vagina, yay! Good day, mate, or I mean, hello, friend.
Howdy.
Welcome aboard. So we generally hear that in Australia, people don't usually name drop Jesus while ordering a cheeseburger like they do in Alabama, and I'm sorry, that was culturally insensitive. When someone in Alabama is ordering a fried barbecue and Oreo sandwich, can you talk about your religious background?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know since I'm pescatarian. So I have been doing a lot of my own cooking, or else eating at vegetarian-friendly restaurants. Only a little bit of seafood, but you know, I do see the Jesus-ness everywhere, and it's disgusting. It's very pervasive, much more than other places. And when I say it's disgusting, I mean like legitimately disgusting. Across the road from the clinic where we do our clinic defense work, there's 2 giant billboards, anti-abortion billboards. There's aunties on the street with pictures of, they're not even aborted fetuses. They're propaganda. So the images that they use are actually stillborn babies from late term, and that's really gross. And everywhere you go, yeah, Jesus, 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 especially when people are being assholes. I always wonder about that. But I guess if you feel like you have an imaginary friend who can forgive you every time you do something shitty, you do shitty things more often.
That seems fairly logical. And by the way, this is the first live mustache twirling that we've had on in show history. If you're listening to this on iTunes, well, just saying, go to YouTube. You'll be very pleased. So before we get into what you're doing here in America, we let you in. We let everybody in around here. Can you talk about your own religious background? Because Australia isn't that overtly religious, but you still got sucked in.
No, that's right. We're not overtly religious, but it sucks. There's a few Christian organizations that wield way too much power, and because of that, when I was in primary school, they were able to send missionaries and preachers into our classrooms. Religious education was always an opt-out, not an opt-in program, so upwards of 90% of the class was in all of the religious education classes in public schools. So I was culturally positioned to kind of believe in Jesus, and then they sent in some exciting missionaries who, let's be clear, they saved my older brother, and he was the one who started taking me along to church. It wasn't me. But and then I got sucked in going to church with my older brother, and he's an ordained minister now. He doesn't work as a minister because that sucks doing that. But yeah, I found my way out of the Pentecostal Christian church, and I found myself in opposition to a lot of the positions that they are taking on social issues, things like LGBT rights, marriage equality, women's rights to bodily autonomy, all kinds of things that people just kind of take for granted and let them get away with. And so I initially got involved with the atheist community after eventually coming to the place of having left the church and trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. I became a comedian and got involved with the skeptics and atheist community. And it was good. It was very cathartic for me to think out and explore my relationship with the universe in a context that was evidence-based. And from there, I started to a little bit feel like I wasn't doing enough. And especially talking with Jake Farwharton, a highly intelligent, very handsome, very well-read individual, very, very good friend who graciously invited me onto the Imaginary Friends Show Dope Home Podcast every episode for a year and a half. We discussed a lot about humanism and the various aspects of activism. And he's actually changing the name of his show from the Imaginary Friends Show because of the atheist connotations. We're still atheists, but as humanists, if somebody's not using their religious belief to inform a stupid, reductive, backwards worldview, then we're not going to really challenge them on it. If they're going to use their empathy and morality that they've developed by being members of a society, a civil society, then I'm not going to challenge them unless in a friendly discussion. That's what I like to do. I like having discussions with people, and as a comedian, I can make funny points and funny jokes, and without being too much of a dick and without being abrasive to those people, you know, I can state my position well. And if somebody's using their position to be a douche, well then, fuck them. I'm going to be a douche back, or worse. You know, I am a comedian. I'm a dirty comedian. And when I'm down at the clinic and the protesters are coming up to the clinic defenders and saying things like, and this is a quote, "Y'all must have been molested. That's why y'all murder babies. And that's why y'all are going to hell." My response is to dress up like Jesus and get blasphemous in their faces. And so that's why Jesus Choice is the official mascot of our Tilt campaign and our work that we're doing down here with the Powerhouse, and the game, the Pledge a Phrase game that we're playing on Twitter to raise money to pay rent for the Powerhouse.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, you got to hit the like for like. You can't be just yelling in somebody's face if they're just saying, "Hi, I'm a Christian." But if they're, some of the tweets you've been getting in the last few days, you got to come back at them with some strength.
Yeah, and sometimes like people come at you with just the most heinous things. I'm just going to say some words that some people might find offensive. As a comedian, I don't really find any words offensive, but I still use them in context. So in this instance, I wouldn't use this word myself, but I was called a faggot a number of times by a gentleman on Twitter for my work at the clinic. I say, you know, the volunteering that we're doing down there, the being the escorts and walking people past the protesters. Yeah, that was very interesting, especially since the way that contact began. My girlfriend Zandy was running the pledge game, and we've raised a few $100s so far. And well, those dogs, that's her coming home. So she might pop in just a minute to say hi. But yeah, she was running the pledge game, and one of these anti-choice trolls came on and started attacking her personally, and claiming that she must have relationship issues with men, and yeah, not really the case, evidenced by me and her being the adorable couple that we are, according to all of our friends, disgustingly so. And so yeah, I just jumped in to have a quick chat, and oh, sorry, I might need to just go and check that. It sounds like the key's not working.
Sure. Got to give the man a minute, but yes, if you go back in history on this show, you can catch the interview with Zandy. I think that was about a week or two before she actually officially changed her name from Sandy. So she was Sandy on the show, and we talked about this groovy romance. So it's nice that we're getting the other end of that, so we can hear both sides of the story. So I'll jump, if he's off for a few more seconds, and just mention first live read I was going to do Cash appears on Atheist on Air this week. He's been off for a few weeks, personal issues and such. So check out that show. It's really good. It's a nice, if you want another someone ranting about the Pope and Catholicism and how unprogressive it is, check that show out. And Professor Stephen and the whole crew is together to talk a little science. So get that show in your earbuds after, of course, finishing listening to this show and checking out everything that Mr. Nick Morganmore has to show. And look at that guy, he's back.
Sorry, the dogs jumped all over her as soon as she walked in. It was a bit of a madhouse here. I should have hit mute before I ran away. My apologies.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Things happen, you know?
It's life.
So let's get back, because the current stuff, we want to get to it, but we want to talk about kind of like the journey, you know, you've taken. So what led you, I mean, we kind of talked about you getting out of religion, but what led you to decide to kind of blindly fly into China and decide to evangelize there?
At that time in my life, I was a Pentecostal Christian and I believed in being led by the Holy Spirit. So on a whim, I thought God will take care of me. And I flew to China and I thought God will tell me what to do. And turns out that was not much because I didn't accomplish very much while I was there. I got to visit an orphanage while I was there. We gave out a whole heap of KFC to some Chinese orphans. But I just spent a lot of time hanging out with the expat church there, not really accomplishing much except for patting each other on the back for being Christians in a communist heathen nation. And I'm grateful that I didn't lead many people to Christ, any people to Christ while I was there, because that would probably make their lives harder right now. And obviously, I don't believe that that's the way to go.
So is there an official government position there against religion? Because I was just wondering about missionaries like kind of being allowed to come into the country.
Yeah, the Christians spread that notion, but it's not really the case. You can be a Christian in China. The government doesn't really care. During the Cultural Revolution, there was a lot of anti-Western sentiment, and they didn't want Christians coming into a destabilized zone and pushing their religion on vulnerable people. And so that's why they took a stance against that. And we saw it did actually happen. You know, the British came in the Opium Wars, and before the Communist Party took power, there was Christian missionaries marching all over China, pushing people around. In some cases, you know, not good things happened. And so you can understand the Communist Party, who at the beginning there was human rights violations, but we were coming out of the world was coming out of a time when that was commonplace. And China is one of the most modernizing nations in the world. They're doing better in terms of human rights all the time, better than we can say for some countries which keep going the wrong way. You know, China's moving the right way, especially on things like green energy. They've got an emerging middle class. They've got one of the world's strongest economies. So I am willing to cut them a little bit of slack. As
well you should. So I also hear that you used to be a fat person. What happened?
Well, I started having sex, didn't I? As a Christian, I didn't think that that's what I thought. God didn't want me to do any of that business, so I avoided it as best I could. But then after I'd left the church, I fucked all the weight off, burned a lot of calories. Turns out I'm naturally gifted at two things. One of them's comedy. That's a lie. I had to work at it to become funny. And the other thing, the only thing that I'm naturally gifted at, is sex, and did loads of it. That, and also changing the way that I eat, stop being so depressed and hating myself, and going to the gym a whole bunch. Those things helped me lose a lot of weight as well.
It's pretty awesome. So do you have a certain like goal weight, and then certain things you want to do once you've reached that weight?
Oh, good question. I have lost more weight since coming here. In the lead up to heading to the States, I was quite stressed, and I noticed that I was eating out of stress a little bit more, and I put on a few kilos, or a few pounds, as some people would know. Since coming to the States, I've switched to being a pescatarian. I was cutting down the meat, not for animal rights reasons per se, but more for the resources. The meat production takes so much resources, so much water and land that is necessary for livestock, which could be better put to use to feed people with a vegetarian diet. Looking at the numbers, if everyone was vegan, there wouldn't be world hunger. But that's, you know, neither here nor there, since people are still eating meat. But I think that eventually we're going to have to transition to a more vegetarian lifestyle, most people on the planet. And so I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit. And also, I'm not bad at cooking, so being pescatarian. And when I say pescatarian, I eat a very small amount of fish, like fish maybe once a week. I still eat cheese. I love cheese. I mean, come on, cheese. But you know, I'll probably end up giving that up eventually too. End up going full vegan or some shit. But I love vegan food. Vegan food's great. So that's what I think has helped me lose that, and being happy and not depression eating, because I'm where I want to be with the person I want to be with. Makes me happy. That's allowed me to drop 20 pounds since coming into the country. So I want to go another 30 to 40, get down lower than I was when I was 14. When I was a fat kid, and I grew up to be a fat adult, and I got down close to 200 pounds when I was going to the gym all the time. And I'd like to beat that weight. And if I can beat that, then I will officially be the lightest that I've been since I was 14 years old.
It's pretty impressive. Look what being self-actualized can do for you, you know?
Yeah, being aware of things definitely helps.
But what about, you mentioned on Atheist Nomads that once you reach a certain weight that you might want to start rolling on the tattoos. I want to hear about like your plans.
Oh, cool. Yeah, good question. Yeah, well, my hope is to start my tattoos here during this trip. It is my birthday on Sunday, so I was thinking about hitting up some of my friends to throw me some money so that I can go out and get my first one as my birthday present. But I haven't organized a page for any of that yet. But and I might not get it done in time, but I will get my first tattoo done while I'm here. My plan is I'm going to go from wrists, from neck, and to the ankles, and I'm going to fill everything. So when I wear a suit, you won't be able to see any of my tattoos, and if I wear any less than a suit, they'll be visible. I want to fill up my whole body. I don't have any, but yeah, hope this month I'll start, and hopefully within a few years' time, as I travel around the world and do comedy and experience more of life, I'll keep designing and keep filling in until I've got tattoos everywhere. And when I'm finished, then we'll go back to the start and keep coloring in, and you know, because they fade over time, you can freshen them up. So you know, people really enjoy getting tattoos. I've heard. I hope that I like it. I might get one and change my mind entirely, but I think I'll end up getting quite a few.
It's just one thing I've never personally had the desire to do is get a tattoo, but I can kind of understand where someone would want to have like a permanent mark on their body, like something that's important to them. And apparently you have a lot to say, like you're going to get the whole Constitution on there maybe, or I don't know,
Maybe.
like one of your sets. So in case you forget the lines, just grab a mirror.
There you go.
And point.
Oh, Zandy's here. She has to go.
Welcome back to the show. How you doing, Zandy?
Will you write me a doctor's note so I can stay home from school?
I hear you have such fun in class. You mentioned that on
Class
Facebook.
started about 20 minutes ago.
Oh. Well, you know, when a guy's got the curled mustache, it's really hard to leave that behind. I would understand.
I putted you up some apples and some cheese.
If I email my homework,
I think you should be asking your professor that.
Ask permission.
I don't want to.
Or just don't go and ask for forgiveness tomorrow.
Can I just email the homework and then state, is this wine?
That's wine, yeah. Yeah,
I think the question might have been answered right there.
Zandy had obviously you can tell Zandy's had a hard day. I love you. You're wonderful. Let me pour you a wine.
He locked me out of the house.
I forget that I had the key.
He didn't mean to.
Yeah. And then doggies jumped all over you.
And then the dog attacked my crotch.
As pets are known to do. I have cats, are much smaller, so it's less painful, but still, yeah.
They
Not
have
very
sharper
considerate.
claws, though.
Yeah, the kittens have the sharpest claws in history. It's pretty bad.
Anyone who's had a cat latch onto their doodle and swing around from their doodle knows the pain.
Their doodle, that's an Australian term?
Yeah.
He doesn't call it that in bed, so I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Well, it's no longer the doodle.
It's my doodle when I'm not using it.
When I'm not using it. What's the point?
Okay.
So, Nick, how did you get kind of transition into the podcast game?
I started listening to podcasts. I was working a job that I hated as a groundskeeper at a large machinery block. And and so I needed something to listen to stop me from just dying. It was so painful. I listened to every album that I had because there was a few garden beds that needed, some tending, not very much. The majority of my job was putting on a chemical hazard suit, a respirator, goggles, and a hat, and walking around spraying weed poison on all of the gravel so that weeds didn't grow through and get into the tracks of the large earth movers. And so I needed something playing in my ears all day long to keep me busy. And so I started listening to podcasts. So I listened to the history of the early Roman Empire. I listened to a bunch of Mark Maron, a bunch of Todd Glass, and eventually I found my way over to the Skeptical Atheist podcasts. And as an ex-believer, but not really taking a firm position yet, it led me to taking some self-reflection. And eventually, I reached out to one of the creators of one of the shows that I really enjoyed. One of the first, I listened to his podcast before I self-identified as an atheist. And when I reached out to him, he invited me on, and his name was Jake Farwharton, and we're really, really good friends now.
And then Jake introduced us.
Yeah, and then Zandy was a guest one week.
I recall, I think you were a guest when I was invited on the show. I don't know if I've been on it once or twice, but maybe just once. Maybe once is enough, you get that. You're finished. That's good.
I'll get you.
Come back next week. But
Jake still listens to me sometimes.
Sorry, don't call us. We'll call you. That's how it works in podcast land.
Okay, I'm going to get out of your interview and go email my assignment to my professor because I'm not going to class.
Okay.
Perfect choice. And I like the wine glass. It's like the size of a bottle of wine. I feel like that's the way to go. That's very efficient.
Dollar Tree. This glass holds half a bottle. So if we ever split a bottle, we use our Dollar Tree glasses.
If you come back and you can and some wine.
Of wine? You already drank the bottle?
That's the one from last time.
It's the one from...
We got drinking while we were watching the Democratic debate, and we got a bit sozzled.
He had I don't want to use the word crash course, but he had to learn how to drive on the right side of the road last night. I had a little too much.
I was a good boyfriend. I made sure that we got home safely.
Yeah, I guess that is a difference. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, it's crazy. Like
half the world goes the other way. I don't know.
Every time I get in the car, I say, and it freaks Zandy out because I've driven like 2 or 3 times. Every time I get in the car to drive, I say, okay, so I'm driving on the right side of the road, which is the wrong side of the road. And it really freaks her out. But I'm getting used to it. My head's starting to get wrapped around it. So the other weekend, we drove up to Atlanta for just a night, and I did some driving on the highway, and that was fun. Turns out cops need to pull you over to give you a ticket. They can't just click a picture of you. So I might have exceeded the speed limit in certain areas by mistake, by accident. If there's any police watching this, I totally didn't. I'm lying. But yeah, it was fun. It was so fun.
So what? When did you decide, like, I want to be a comedian? And then when did you say, hey, I can actually do this?
So this would have been about 4.5 years ago. I was working that job, listening to these podcasts, and the same week where I self-identified as an atheist, was the first week where I booked my first gig at stand-up, and it was also that first week that I started sleeping with girls. It was all at once, a busy week for me, but all good decisions. all
Yeah.
very happy.
Didn't regret that, did you?
Movement things, yeah. And so the first gig that I did was on the Gold Coast in a room called The Loft, and it was run by a comedian named Chris Begg, who just crowdfunded his first comedy album. And I think you can still find it online if you just search for Chris Begg and Parent Sandwich. That's his comedy special, which will be coming out soon. So get in your pre-orders. He's awesome, and he gave me my first spot at stand-up, and he's still a good friend. And my first gig, I thought that I was on stage for about an hour, and when I got off stage, it turns out I was up there for about 2.5 minutes. And I just kept at it. After a year, I always had a lot of encouragement from the other comedians, from the audiences that came to see me, but I felt like I could do better. And I made my goal from the very beginning to always be better. And about 1.5 years ago, I was feeling really shitty before a gig, just physically terrible. I had gastro. I don't know what you guys call it. I've mentioned it to people here. It's just where your fluids coming out of top and bottom. Can't keep anything down. And so I hadn't slept in 4 days, and I hadn't eaten in 5 days, and I had a gig. And I have this thing about not canceling gigs ever, like as little as possible. My car broke down on the way to a gig one time, and I was devastated. And so I went and I got on stage feeling the shittiest that I have ever felt, and feeling like the least funny that I've ever felt, and I annihilated. And I realized that if I can perform and be funny, and I stepped off stage feeling like a king, and very happy with my performance. And since then, I've been doing really well, and stepped up my game a whole heap. And that's the goal, is to keep improving, and hopefully never stop improving.
So you're performing some while you're here?
Yes.
In the U.S., Montgomery exactly is where you're right now.
Yep. So I'm going to be doing some gigs around Montgomery, Alabama. I'm doing a gig on the 24th. If there's anybody watching from or listening from Alabama, I'm doing a gig opening for a local band called BPM. I'll be doing a gig alongside them on the 24th, which is a Friday or a Saturday night, 24th of October. It's my little sister's birthday. I should have checked what day it is. But yeah, as I mentioned, my birthday is coming up. My little sister was born 6 days after me, because my parents told me I was getting a little sister for my birthday, and then turns out they lied. So the 24th is a Saturday, is my next gig, which I'll be doing here alongside a really cool rock reggae band.
Bulletproof Marshmallows.
Bulletproof Marshmallows. That's what BPM stands for.
Sounds like a good band name right there. So you mentioned in your Atheist Nomads interview, because I totally stole from them, that you used to have people call you up and tell jokes at parties. Are your services still available for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I will be. I'm launching my Patreon, which will be under my name, Nick Morgan Moore. That's my name. And as a reward for a certain level of Patreon-age, I'll be available to Skype in to people's parties to do a set, along with the background vlog of what's going on here. So I'll be talking about gigging in the South. I'll be talking about some of the clinic defense work that we do, just the background to the Jesus Choice character, and the background to a few things that are going on around here. That's what my Patreon page will be about.
Now, people can also check out your material on YouTube. So because I saw your performance, or one of the sets you had on there. So what was the genesis, and yeah, I said that on purpose, of you bringing a woman on stage to sign your jokes?
I didn't do that. That was organized by the room. A friend of mine runs that room. He got a grant from the Queensland government to basically people need to skill in disabilities. So the only deaf person in the room was actually the interpreter, who has a hearing aid, and so she can hear, but also she grew up deaf. And so she needs to do a certain amount of hours of interpretation in order to get qualified, to get certified. And so as part of a program, she got paid to be there and to just do it. And I saw her standing there. My friend who runs the room, a comedian by the name of Aaron Pratt, you can find him on Twitter just by searching Aaron Pratt. I mentioned to him that I might be coming down, and he knows my comedy. He knows me. And he was like, yes, you're coming down. And he kicked someone else off the bill so that I could be there. And he gave me the headline spot. And yeah, the rest is history. You can search up. Not many of the comedians interacted with her at all, which I thought was a real waste, because, you know, she's a lovely person and she's there all night. So I just pulled her on stage with me, and because I wanted to see exactly how my jokes looked when they were being interpreted. So you can find that on my YouTube page, which is Nick Morgan Moore. That's my name. You can also find it by searching Dirty Comedian Meets Sign Language Interpreter.
See, there are many ways to find the man, and I appreciate that you're joining me here. I'm drinking a Yahoo Dos Perros this evening.
Well, my honey brought me a bottle of, I think it's wine from Georgia, but it's very tasty.
Wine from Georgia, huh?
Mm.
See, look at you being cross-cultural.
Exactly. I like to try the local thing. If I can, you know, I'm pescatarian, so like if the local thing is just like a mouthful of bacon and then like dipping your head into a pot full of ham, then I'm not going to do that. Which, you know, they do that in some towns in Alabama, I've heard. So I'm not going to try that, but I will try your wine. I will try your wine. If your wine's shitty, I'll drink it faster so I don't have to suffer through it for as long. But I'm going to drink your wine. That's my promise to you. I'll drink your wine.
I feel like that's a bit of a giving back. So here's a very important question. So does your mustache have an agent?
No, but you can get in contact with me directly on my Facebook comedian page or on my Twitter. And I'm available to do things. I'm doing things for free while I'm here, because I'm not working while I'm here because of my visa status. But I'll be the plan. We tell people, me and Zandy, we tell people that currently she's renting with the option to buy. That's what's going on. I really like her, so at the end of my stay, I think I'll give her a discount. And so, yeah, the plan's for me to apply for residency and come back and do some paid work next year to support myself and her a little bit. You know, she's a professional lady. She's a go-getter, and she's awesome. And also, I'm hoping that I can build up my following enough so that I can do at least part-time activism while I'm here. I want to be supporting as many local causes as I can, and the Powerhouse, which stands for People Organizing for Women's Empowerment and Rights House, which is the house that's next door to the clinic. That's one of the causes that is closest to my heart right now, because I'm down there every week standing against those protesters with the clinic defenders blocking the cameras, because they do film patients as an intimidation tactic. So blocking them and their cameras and playing the pledge game, which is so fun. The pledge game, it was invented by Zandy. Like she's the mastermind of this. Like I'm not the hero of the story. It's her. She's the hero of the story. You want to tell the story? Yeah, come back and tell the story, honey. Do we have time? How much time we got left?
Oh, we got like 20-some minutes. So sure.
We got 20 minutes left in the episode.
Okay. So this was our second week clinic escorting together. And the first week that we did it, the protester who's always out there, his name is David Day, and his Twitter handle is @SoAllMayKnowHim. You won't be able to tweet him, though, because we scared the crap out of him, and he has locked down everything. His tweets are protected. He's like, you can't contact him. But for a while, we were all trolling him and, like, just sending him idiotic quotes of, like, do you realize what you sound like when you say this?
And let me point out, this gentleman deserves it. He was one of the ones who came over and accused us of being molested, which is why we're baby killers. Like, that's and he filmed patients going into the clinic, so he deserves all of this?
He screams at the women and he says, you're killing your baby. You don't have to kill your baby today. God loves you, but
Don't kill your baby.
Gonna,
love your baby. You gotta love your baby. Don't kill your baby.
You're gonna
be
burn
a man.
in hell.
Be a man. Be
Yeah.
a man and lead your woman. Don't let her kill your baby.
So he tells the men, be a man, put your arm around her, don't let her do this. And he tells the women, you're going to burn in hell for killing your baby. Well, one day in a lull, the first week that we both escorted together, he walks up to both of us and says to me, and he's on the property line, which he can't cross, and he's standing there and he says, did you have an abortion, Sandy? He calls me Sandy. And he says, did you have an abortion, Sandy? I heard that you did. And I said, yes, I did. And he said, do you ever think of what if you had a boy or a girl? Or what if you had a baby right now? Or what if you hadn't killed your baby? Or do you ever think about that day and regret it? And he just goes on and on and on. And we're looking at each other, just rolling our eyes. And then he says, don't you ever think about that day? And I said, actually, no, it never crosses my mind. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I've never thought back about it. But you know, now that you mention it, the one thing I do remember about that day is you yelling at me and trying to make me feel awful. And that's just a really shitty thing to do. And I said, why would you try and make somebody feel terrible? Why do you want them to feel bad? And he says, well, I'm sorry. I know I cross the line sometimes, and I'm sorry if I made you feel bad. So I'm not sorry for saying that you're killing your baby and you're going to hell, but if I said anything else, then I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry I insulted your shoes, but I'm okay with telling you you're going to hell. I don't know. That sounds like...
Right. So then the following week, he's still harassing me. He follows me over to the house next door, the powerhouse, and he's yelling at me. And he said something that was supposed to be hurtful. And I looked him in the eye, I grabbed a piece of poster board and a Sharpie, and I said, the next time you say that, I'm donating $1 to abortion funds every time you do. And he said, what? And then I wrote out the list. I wrote out the key phrases he says all the time and buzzwords, and I held it up in front of him, and every time he said one of them, I said, okay, and I drew a tally mark on the board. And he says, what are you doing? And I said, those tallies are dollars that are going to abortion, so keep talking. And he got really quiet, and he went and sat over in the corner and prayed silently, which was the goal, really, just to get him to shut up. I don't care if he sits there and prays silently.
Yeah, one of the clinic defenders told us that since we started playing the game, he has become the quietest that he has been since he's been doing it for 2 years.
And he tweeted me. He said, what does that say? Like he couldn't read the fine print or something. He says, what does that mean? Or one of the phrases. He didn't get it. And I said, I tweeted you a picture of it. And then we just tweeted with him tagged in the thread every time someone pledged $1 or $20 or $5.
People started jumping in on Twitter. People started jumping in all over the place. And Facebook, Twitter.
And he would tweet back and say things that were buzzwords and pledge phrases. And we'd go, well, there's another $1 for abortion. So he blocked me. He blocked a bunch of my friends. And then he finally went and just locked down his whole Twitter. But since that day, we raised about $370.
Yep. In 2 days of being out there playing the pledge game.
Just from him, everything he says, people hate it enough that they're willing to donate money to get him shut up.
Yep.
So.
And tomorrow is clinic day, and it'll be the first day that Jesus Choice goes down there to preach to these aunties about the ills of being an asshole. That's the message, the sermon that Jesus is bringing tomorrow.
So, do you have a special outfit for that? Is that?
Yes, and you'll see it online when we post tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to do my first vlog as Jesus Choice in front of the aunties, and Jesus Choice will be the mascot of the game. Zandy is the inventor and the mastermind and the love of my life and brilliant and an inspiration.
This poor guy.
And she should be president.
I'm gonna run for president. His response was first to get quiet and sit down in the corner. To which the clinic owner told us, "We call that the shit corner." Do you know why? She brings her cat litter box up there and empties it there because Because she likes the idea of knowing that they're kneeling in cat shit.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so that was funny. He got so mad, and then he posted a bunch of prayer requests for me and Nick about like our hard hearts. And
Yeah, even the hardness of the wicked is wickedness. And that was a double cut. Wicked is one of our buzzwords.
The prayers appear to be working, and probably the opposite of his intention.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did an interview with Phil Ferguson, and he mentioned going to like an abortion clinic and talking to the people who are protesting as if he was one of them. And he asked them all like their names, and then after they told him, he said, "Okay, I'm going to go in there and make a donation in each of your names." And I was like, "That's a great idea." And I'm like, "That's perfect." It's like
some of the clinics have been playing the adopt an anti game, which is a good idea, but it doesn't shut them up like the pledge of phrase.
Yeah, they did. The adopt an auntie is more like if a guy shows up wearing a cowboy hat, I'll donate $1 for every guy that's wearing a cowboy hat. But then they're still there. You've only donated $1, and they're still yelling.
They're still harassing women.
Right. And this guy, oh my gosh. And the buzzwords, the
Yeah.
kill, murder, life, gift, the buzzword challenge. When he reads from the Bible, it's $5. And then every buzzword is another $1. And do you know how many buzzwords are in those Bible verses that he reads?
He tried using a megaphone, but the police came and shut him down because that's against city ordinance. So he's got this tiny little, like from a child's cheerleader set that he's taken, just a tiny little megaphone that he uses to yell into the clinic. And so that's $10 if he yells through that. And so hopefully that'll reduce the amount that he does it. It's such a good idea because it stops them in their tracks from harassing these women. You know, they're out there harassing these women, and every time they say one of our buzzwords, every time they say one of our phrases, they are directly supporting what they're trying to stand against.
And every time they try to scoot around it, we'll just add another pledge. The other day, they brought children, and a woman pledged, you know what, they shouldn't bring kids to protest abortion. So I'm going to give $20 for every child that's out there. And there were 3 children. So yeah.
Oh, and the irony of that day is that there was people there with children because obviously, you know, families, you know, people who have kids and can't afford to have another kid will, you know, go and exercise their rights to their own bodies and take care of, you know, if a pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy. And he was yelling at them, "You shouldn't have kids here. You shouldn't have kids here. They don't understand what's going on."
They don't understand they're participating in. And then here comes his wife with their kids. Like sitting down with the protest signs.
Exactly. And the families that are there, the powerhouse exists so that if, and we see it almost every week, that someone will bring some kids along and they because obviously they've got to take time off work or whatever, and they'll have their kids with them. They don't want to be sitting in a clinical waiting room. They can hang out in the lounge at the powerhouse.
They don't allow children in the waiting room, actually.
Yeah.
And then it's very, you don't want to sit in that waiting room all day. So what they do is they have everyone who's got an appointment that day. They don't have an appointment time. They just have an appointment day. And the reason for that is because of the protesters. They require every woman who's having a procedure that day to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning so that they can all get inside and lock the door because these protesters are so vicious. So they've got to get up extra early and then come into a place where you can't bring your phone because that's for their own protection so that no one violates their privacy and tries to videotape them inside.
Absolutely.
And they're sitting there, you know, with nothing to do. Another good thing, if anyone wants to help out, is send us your magazine subscriptions that you probably never subscribed to that just come to you in the mail, because those people get really bored sitting there all day.
Yeah.
But at least now they can come next door and sit at the
in a safe, quiet place. You know, all of the days that I've been there, they've had somebody asleep with a child inside the house, obviously exhausted. A lot of them with young children. You know, I just walked through to get someone a bottle of water, and we use the patio. We'll have a patio party where we'll play music that the aunties really hate. And yeah, I went in and there was a guy just asleep with a baby on top of him. And I was like, it's good that we have this. That's what we have that house for. That, and so the aunties can't have it and see around the back of the clinic.
And now the clinic owner also operates the whole thing. She's amazing.
She is amazing.
She does everything. She does some of every job over there, and she will call over next door. She'll just take their cell phone number and call them when it's a few minutes from their appointment time. So that's been really nice just to have somewhere else to sit.
They can come and the family or the partners can come and hang out at the powerhouse right next door in safety and comfort and a bit of privacy. And we put up some camo netting on the porch so that the aunties can't harass them even there. That was a really smart move. And so yeah, they can come and have a safe, quiet place to hang out while they're waiting, and then they can go back and sit with their partner in the recovery room until they're ready to go home.
We're going to get all that information for donating at the very end of the show, but we got to talk about this romance here, like how this happened. And I don't know if we need to do Nick's version. And then Zandy, when he came to the country, did you mention, hey, as a first date, how about being an escort at an abortion clinic?
Yeah, that's what I did. I drove him straight to the clinic.
That's right. Well, we tell the story the same. Like it happened how it happened. We met on a podcast, and as soon as I heard her speak, I realized that this was someone really special, someone really smart. And I had a sneaky little look at her Facebook page, and turns out while I was doing that, she was having a sneaky little look at mine, and she sent me a photograph of her wearing a fake moustache, a curly one, and it just escalated from there. We started having Skype
And then
calls.
I sent him a picture of my butt.
She sent me a picture of her butt, so it's her fault.
It's her fault.
She knows how much I love her. She knew that sending me a picture of her butt would result in me coming here and us being together. So good work, honey.
Mm-hmm.
We started just Skyping. We Skyped a couple times a week, and then every day, and then we left Skype connected all the time, so that if when Zandy went to bed, I could say goodnight and I could wait up with her and make sure that she was feeling comfortable and was relaxed and felt safe. And then I'd go off and do what I needed to do, whether it was go to a gig or go to a part-time job or whatever it was. And then she'd do the same for me when I was sleeping, and she'd say good morning.
He'd come home and wake me up for work.
So I woke you up for work every day. By the end there, we were just constantly connected via Skype. Technology, it connects people around the world so that you can find the person who's perfect for you. You don't have to marry the neighbor girl anymore. Not like in the 1900s when you're like, I bloody hate her, but she's the neighbor girl. I have to marry her. Damn it. And so yeah, that's how we met, and that's how it happened. She was the one who was really brave. She was the one who told me that she had feelings. I had feelings, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't going to put that pressure on her out of nowhere, because we're halfway around the world from each other. How's that supposed to work? And you couldn't sleep?
I woke up in the middle of the night, and I wasn't going to be able to go back to sleep until I said something.
And so we talked it out. And
I said those 3 words, and not the 3 that he says in his stand-up either.
It was a different 3 words. And yeah, from there we started making plans to be together. And it took us a few months, and generous donations from a lot of our friends at the last minute when ticket prices kept going up. But they got me here, and here I am. And coming here and being with you felt like I was coming home. And I love you.
You need to put $1 in the sack jar.
Yeah, I do.
You have a jar. That's so cute. And how long are you staying in the country?
So I have to go home on the 20th of December.
There's a visa waiver program that the U.S. has with certain allied nations, and so you can come to the country for up to 90 days without a visa. And so he's here for 89 days.
Yeah.
Approximately. That's good though.
So I'm
You'll
heading
have time. You get to see the war. You get to see your first war on Christmas. I mean, you never forget your firsts.
Exactly.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I wonder.
He gets to have a Thanksgiving.
First American Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet your grandma. That'll be nice.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm not gonna want to go home. But if they force me, they're gonna march me onto the plane at gunpoint because everyone's got guns. And the day that I get home, I'm applying for a residency visa to come back. And as soon as it gets approved, I'm coming back to you.
Mhm.
That's
I
awesome.
can't go there because they have bugs.
Yeah, she's scared of cockroaches.
I'm scared of all the creepy crawly
And
things.
we've got big ones. We've got ones the size of your head. But we've got kangaroos too. They're cute.
Do they eat the bugs?
Sometimes, if they're on grass or something.
Mhm.
The only things that eat the bugs are scarier than the bugs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk again. So the pledge a phrase, how does it work? So if you donate like $1, is it for like the day or is it for the week?
You can do it however you want, but normally it's by day. So we'll send out the totals at the end of the day.
So at the start, we'll send a photo of the pledge boards, and as it goes, we'll be tweeting, and we'll say, "Oh, he just said this one again. Oh, he just said that one again." And then at the end of the day, we'll do a total.
And you can add a pledge too.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a particular thing that's not on the board that you want to pledge, you pick an amount that you think it's worth, and hashtag pledge a phrase, and we'll find it.
Yeah, and if they're extra belligerent, it can get quite expensive. So we're not going to be holding people. You know, we're not going to be shaking people out by their ankles. If people want to wait until the end of the day and have a look at the pledge board and see what they can afford to donate, then they can donate and then tell us which one they chose. We're all about that, all about looking after our community who are looking after us, and we really appreciate every single dollar that people are bringing in. It's humbling and it's touching, and you're all amazing. Everyone who's given so far and everyone who's going to give, you are my hero, and I couldn't be happier to be here doing this. The only thing that would make me happier is if somehow the government pulled their heads out of their asses and put in exclusion zones so that being a clinic volunteer wasn't necessary anymore.
Yeah.
But then we'd find what the next thing is, because we're activists. We do things.
Yeah.
I feel like
Last
you do
night
like
at the,
solving crime and stuff. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, we hosted a Bernie debate watch party last night, and there were some people who showed up that I haven't seen since we stopped protesting the sanctity of marriage rallies.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I haven't seen you guys in a while. I mean, when would I ever see my friends if we don't have things to protest? So that's just what it is.
But it's good though that the people who are the activists are the people with the biggest hearts. They're the people whose it's so heavy on their hearts that they have to get out there and do something. So they're the kindest and the sweetest and the best people, and I'm lucky to call them friends. And so if that's you, if somebody is watching or listening to this and you realize that you're not doing something that you could be doing, get out and do something. You'll feel good about it. You'll feel good about yourself. That's a selfish motivation, and it's fine because you're making the world a better place, a little piece at a time. And I encourage you all to do it because it comes with a sense of satisfaction and a sense of joy and a sense of purpose. So if you're looking for a thing to do, then do something good.
well, that is some great advice. We're getting near the end of the hour, so we're going to try to wrap things up. First of all, we just want to say, Zandy, we know the relatively recent bad relationship history you've had, so really glad to see. It's always cool to see two kids fall in love, especially from the distance. This might be technically the longest distance you can do on the planet Earth between Australia and Alabama. I mean, if you probably mapped it, that would be the case. So glad to hear that. And then Nick, well, I guess either of you can tell people where to go to donate, and then of course the big, what on earth can people do to follow you?
Okay,
During your American trip and beyond.
Our campaign currently is on tilt.
It's on my profile picture, actually.
That's good.
Yeah. If you
If you go to tilt.com,
it's an app too.
it's also an app, which makes it really easy to donate. So if you want to play the pledge game, download the app, and then you can just give a little bit every week that we're doing our pledge a phrase. If you want to search for it on Tilt, it's Montgomery Area Reproductive Justice Coalition. That's the name of the Tilt program. Once this one expires, we might change the name to Pledge a Phrase or something.
Yeah,
but
this one was originally started just for people who wanted to contribute to the rent for the powerhouse, and then we started Pledge a Phrase and started using the same link. But this campaign's about to expire, so we may start a new one that's just for Pledge a Phrase.
So keep an eye out for Pledge a Phrase. It's a hashtag on Twitter, and that's what we're going to be posting a whole heap under. You can also look for Jesus Choice, who will be cropping up all over the place, and you'll see links for him. And if you want to follow me, I have a Facebook comedian page, I have a YouTube channel, and I have a Twitter. All of them are at Nick Morganmore. That's my name. And also my Patreon, which I'm starting, where I'll do my behind-the-scenes vlog of being in the South, and the supplementary info to all of the other things that I'm doing.
Well, that is fabulous, and we will get all those links incorporated in the show notes tonight. So once again, thanks to Zandy for being a special guest star, and for Nick Morganmore for telling a little more of your story. So if you want to follow me, well, if you have trouble spelling Zachrilege, it's right there in front of you, Zachrilege. Like my Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, and feel free to send all hate mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. And also, if you want to donate, go to patreon.com/Zachrilege. And in the spirit of giving, I will be giving all of my Patreon for this month to your cause. We'll be in touch.
Dude, thank you so much.
I don't have that many followers, but hey, every bit counts, right?
That's absolutely right.
So with that, I just want to say, stay skeptical, everybody. I love all of y'all, and Zachrilege out.